Word. I will be back in a second. Yeah, it looks a little better, and it's like a lesser file. The text is what? Yeah. Good. That's the plan. That is the plan. Yeah, man. He's dope. Oh, should have been coffee. I'm gonna need the I'm not gonna have any energy for the stream, man. Tried that. Them Dolphins. Natural them Dolphins. All right, first off, is everything working today?
We hope so.
Let us know. CXK, thank you for smashing that like button first.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Let us know if you can hear us both, if you can see us both. Throw
if
something into the chat so we know that the chat is working. Little bit of a new, we got a, I don't know.
New setup.
Redesign today, but also just brand new setup.
Somewhat optimistic that it's working.
Excuse me, changing some things in light of our whole live stream hasn't been up to the standards that we wanted, or that we were really aware of. So we're trying to fix those issues. This redesign is one of the results of trying to fix those issues. So let us know if it is any cleaner for you guys on the other end. But welcome to Face Mask Fantasy. How y'all doing?
Sir. Happy Thursday. We're almost done. We're almost to the weekend. We're officially full swing into June. I feel like this is the time of year where you obviously have your diehards who play Dynasty. They're paying attention year round, but we're starting to creep into that time of the year where the redraft folks are going to start coming back and paying attention. They're going to start looking at their rankings. They're trying to figure out what they want to do this year. June feels like the time where it's like, we can obviously always talk about Dynasty and any conversations or questions that anybody want to have about Dynasty, but we are inching closer and closer to the bread and butter of fantasy football, the home base, the granddaddy of them all, right? Which is redraft, which started it all. We're approaching that time of the year, so it feels appropriate.
Yeah, it's been something we have both said, and you said it first, that we want to start doing sooner than later, and I agreed, and that's why you're seeing some more redraft focused content from us instead of just the strict Dynasty talk as it was earlier in the season. And yeah, man, I'm excited to get into it today.
Cool.
Sorry, I am just trying to fix the chat because it is coming up tiny. So let me see if I can change these font settings real quick. But
I mean, I just saw something pop up. It's not too bad. I don't think it's too bad.
I mean, I don't want not too bad. We want
crispy and
good. What's the purpose of this whole redesign? Is to get it perfect.
To make it so that it can be as good as it possibly can be, if not better.
Absolutely.
I understand. I understand that and appreciate that. But also, like Ryan Fitzpatrick's career, we want to have some fun with this.
Oh man, speaking of that, pour one out for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I was
going to wear his jersey on the stream, but I didn't have enough time to go get it and also set all this up. So
I feel like we would honor him by taking our shirts off, but it would also need to be like 5 degrees out.
Yeah, man.
It would need to be like bitterly cold, several beers deep. That's the Fitzy that I know.
You know, the Fitzmagic beard is not quite as majestic as his
beard. Show off the Fitzmagic chest hair, right? Do all that. Do all the good stuff. 17-year career for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Played for like a dozen teams. Bounced around the league. Was he?
Yeah, he started with the Rams. I believe he was on the Bengals, and then he went to the Bills, and then where was he on the Texans? Real quick,
Houston, Tampa,
and then the Redskins, or the Redskins at the time. No,
they were the R word at the time.
No, it wasn't them. I'm sorry, I said the name.
Oh no, sorry. He finished his career there. Duh. The Dolphins, the Bucks.
Dolphins, Bucks, Jets. He was on the Jets for like a solid three-year stint.
Yep. Spent some time with the Jets. It's hard to keep track of all of them because he spent much time bouncing around the league.
I think he was sticking it out to see if he could get one more jersey from one more team. But yeah,
if I were him, I would want that.
Well, doesn't he have the record for the player on the most teams in the NFL, starting for the most teams in the NFL?
That I don't know.
I think so, at least from the quarterback position. I think it was 9 or 10, and he blew that out the water.
Okay. Certainly possible. It would make sense. Either way, salute to Fitzpatrick. Yep. Hell of a career. Was it like a 6th or 7th round pick out of Harvard? So, I mean...
Oh, yeah. Did y'all know he went to Harvard?
Yes. Beat the odds. Beat the odds in a big way. Enjoy retirement. I had to drop him from a dynasty roster today.
There you go.
Said my piece about
Another
it.
one bites the dust.
Yep. But with that out of the way, and hopefully with this new and improved setup, giving you guys a brand new experience or a better experience than the one that we previously had.
Hopefully an improvement over the past streams visually and just overall. So let us know if you do see a real difference on the other side, or if we need to continue to go back to the drawing board.
Which we will if we have to, but hopefully we don't have to.
Yep.
With that said, I mentioned it's redraft season, or it's fast approaching. The time has come for some rankings, and part of this was a suggestion from our members in the Discord, which, by the way, I'll mention really quickly right now. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. It is the second link in the description of this video and all of our recent videos. Come hang out in there. Come join us and keep the conversation going before and after each stream. But there was an ask for us to do rankings, and we're going to do some rankings. So today, we have the top 12. John's and I list are, of course, going to be a little bit different, but we will find some middle ground as far as the conversation goes. And by all means, feel free to chime in with your thoughts as well as we go down this list. But we are going to do the 2022, our rankings anyway, for the top 12 running backs for the season. Anything else to add to that, or should we just kick this off?
No, I'm just getting all my notes ready, man. Give me.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you start it off while I'm getting my
while you get your notes ready
together? Yeah.
Okay, you could do that. So kicking things off, the top 12 running backs for 2022. The first, the safest guy on the board. I did grapple with this a little bit because I do think, despite all of the concerns,
Ronald Jones.
No. There are a lot of concerns about Christian McCaffrey as far as the amount of playing time that he's had the past couple of years. I thought about, regardless of all that, listing him number one, because it's very, very difficult to repeat as the number one player for fantasy purposes year over year. That being said, the first overall pick in a redraft, it's not necessary. Like, yes, obviously you want the best player, the best performer, but sometimes it's just a matter of securing the safest player sometimes. And I think that's what Jonathan Taylor represents. He has an excellent chance of repeating. I don't know if I'll necessarily predict that he repeats as the RB1, because it's just a difficult feat to do no matter what the position is. But I will give Taylor the respect that he deserves after the season that he had last year. Jonathan Taylor is my 101 top running back for 2022. He's in an excellent offense behind a great offensive line. Matt Ryan is an upgrade over Carson Wentz, so you have to feel better about maybe they increase their scoring chances in 2022. The defense in Indianapolis is good, so I expect a lot of neutral game script. I expect, there should be close games. Indianapolis should be playing in close games. That bodes well for the backfield, for the running back. Some people like Nyheim Hines because of Matt Ryan's because of the Matt Ryan addition, but he's not the type of player to turn the Indianapolis backfield into a committee. This is Jonathan Taylor's backfield. He is the guy. Will he repeat? It's going to be tough to do. Does he deserve the respect of being the top running back listed for 2022? I believe so, yes.
Yeah, if anybody else has probably any other player at their number one position in their RB rankings, maybe not in their overall rankings, to each their own as far as positional preference, but in terms of the RB1, if anybody doesn't have Jonathan Taylor as their RB1, I think they're kind of crazy. His year last year was insane, and to your point, the offense got better, but not just at quarterback, because T.Y. Hilton got replaced by a young Alec Pierce, who should at least offer some more he should just offer some more throughout the season because he most likely won't get injured at the rate that Ty was. And Ty, when healthy last year, wasn't providing much of anything either. He was pretty much just a decoy field stretcher, even when he was on the field. They also upgraded in the TE room, just by nature of moving on from Jack Doyle and putting Mo Alley Cox in position to be the TE1 for the entire season. I'm not talking about Jelani Woods here. Mo Alley Cox, just by nature of him taking over that tight end 1 role, makes that offense just a little bit better as well. And Michael Pittman gets one more season in the league with a better quarterback. The whole offense is better, and that's all going to help Jonathan Taylor. He was not the RB1 in points per game. That was Derrick Henry. So is he going to repeat? I think it would take Derrick Henry falling off for him to do so. But there's a possibility of that happening. He doesn't have the warts as far as injury risk that any of these other players have, because these other players that are in conversation for that RB2, RB3 spot, they're all old or oft injured or both. And so Jonathan Taylor has none of those concerns. I think he has as good a chance as anybody to repeat.
Yeah, he's a layup to finish as an RB1, provided good health, with easy top 5 upside, and we saw what he did last year. He was literally number 1. So, gotta give him that respect. So that's the easy part of the conversation. I personally think that this number 2 is an easy part of the conversation, despite some of the warts that he comes with, just because of the upside that he brings. Maybe after that is when the conversation really begins. But I have Christian McCaffrey as my number 2 running back for the 2022 season. At the time where he picked up yet another injury mid-season last year, the initial reaction that I'm sure a lot of people had, myself included, was like, oh my God, is this, what do you make of Christian McCaffrey? Can you trust him? Is he somebody that you should just avoid altogether in redraft? Now that we've removed ourselves from the initial reaction of the injury and kind of take a step back, yes, he's played a total of 8 games over the past 2 years. That's a major red flag. That's a major concern. But when he's on the field, he still is as safe a bet as anybody to average, depending on your scoring, 30 fantasy points a game. He's matchup proof. He's quarterback proof. He's situation proof. The only thing that he's not is injury proof. Not that anybody is, but obviously McCaffrey has dealt with a multitude of injuries over the past couple of years after an unbelievable RB1 finish in 2019. He still has that upside because he's still only 25 years old, and the injuries that he suffered were lingering soft tissue issues that are an issue in season and for the duration of that season, but is something that he's able to rest and rehab in the off season. McCaffrey remains the cheat code of running backs, the Konami code of running backs, because of what he can do in the receiving game. If he is on the field, he's going to score 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, he's who I have at RB2 too. And again, whereas it's not as clear cut as the Jonathan Taylor pick, I do think if you pretty much have anybody else in there, you're probably thinking too hard and going too deep into the conversation, into the thought process about it. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, when he's been on in 2018 and 2019 respectively, he was number 2 and number 1 in points per game. This last year, he was number 8 in points per game, despite constantly getting touchdown vultured on the goal line, because earlier in the season, and we've talked about this in other live streams, early in the season, Sam Darnold was rushing for touchdowns at a ridiculous rate. He was leading the league in rushing touchdowns. Sam Darnold. I believe he had 5 in the first 6 games. Crazy.
Yeah, for the first month and a half, he was leading the league in rushing
and then
scores.
Who do they go to at quarterback after that? While Christian McCaffrey is still healthy, Cam Newton, who throughout his career has vulture touchdowns at an elite rate.
Yep.
At the rate I would
From
say
everyone.
most up to that point from the
Yep.
quarterback position.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean Christian McCaffrey at RB8 in points per game in 2021 is due for crazy amounts of positive touchdown regression. There's that phrase again.
Yeah.
But again, we're using it for a reason. 18.2 fantasy points per game last season, and he should be scoring some touchdowns. If he scored some touchdowns last season that went to Sam Darnold, that went to Cam Newton, say he scored 3 more touchdowns, which I think is conservative.
Yeah.
He'd be around 21 fantasy points per game in a down year in 2021. And he played more games than the season prior. In 2020, 3 games. 2021, 7 games. You got to think, hey, that is a positive trend. Let's hope this year he gets to 14.
Right.
Double it up.
Right.
Double it up. So yeah.
Yeah, I
The
don't need
fact that-
17 games from McCaffrey, but let's see him get 13, 14 again.
And this is a trend with the next 2 running backs in my rankings. They should see a scaled back number of touches, overall touches, and rushes this season. Despite that, they're still my RB2 and RB3 respectively. Donta Foreman is there. He should pick up some goal line work. He should pick up that short yardage work up the middle, those runs up the middle on which Christian McCaffrey might get injured. They should want to use him more in space. They still have Chuba Hubbard there, who they drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round last year. Fourth round, possibly.
I'll double check that.
But still, we don't like him that much, but he's still there. He's still there. Still going to pick up some touches, hopefully, from a Christian McCaffrey. And honestly, Amir Abdullah, when put into that hybrid role, was pretty solid for them last year. So maybe take a few more touches. And I know it's crazy to be taking touches away from Christian McCaffrey, but that's something that I think that they should do to keep him healthy. Maybe not give him 25 touches a game. Maybe give him 20. See if he can stay healthy for a 14-game season. He's still going to be hyper effective on those touches. And honestly, if he stays healthy, he should be more efficient on those touches later into the season if all goes well. In back-to-back seasons, 2020 to 2021, he rose his yards per carry on the ground by 7.7 points from 3.7 to 4.5. There's still room to grow there. And remember, in 2020, he scored 6 total touchdowns in 3 games. In 2021, he scored 2 total touchdowns in 7 games. Just think about that. Mm-hmm. If Christian McCaffrey was getting the same amount of touchdown work, red zone work that amounted to touchdowns in 2021 as he was getting in 2020, that's around 13 touchdowns in 7 games if we're prorating. So just think about that. Christian McCaffrey absolutely deserves that number 2 running back spot, despite the injuries.
That's like a conservative projection, too, for somebody like him.
Yeah.
We like to, you play to win, you swing for the fences, you take players with the upside that he brings to the table, point blank.
Yeah.
Taylor and McCaffrey are the top 2. I don't really think there's that much of a conversation there. I won't argue too much if people put McCaffrey as their number 1 running back again, just because of the upside we have seen from him. But I think, at least on this channel, we're in agreement where it should be Taylor. This is probably where the conversation differs, though. I am sure that my number 3 running back is different from yours. I'm happy to take the lead here unless you got anything you want to say specifically about whoever you got.
Well, I said that my RB2 and RB3 are running backs that should have their workloads scaled back a little bit.
Okay.
So my number 3 is Austin Ekeler.
I was like, it's got to be Ekeler.
It's Ekeler.
We did not talk about our ranking. We wanted to keep the debate as fresh as possible. We did not disclose our rankings to each other prior to the stream. But okay, you got Ekeler.
Just out of curiosity, who do you have there?
So he's the guy that I've been expressing concerns about over the past couple of days after it was recently reported that he gained 15 pounds.
Najee?
I was bullish on Najee because of the potential workload that he was looking at this year, despite the fact that he's probably looking at fewer catches. I just expect the Steelers to continue to funnel work through him, working with either a rookie quarterback or, a guy in Mitchell Trubisky who's kind of like a placeholder.
Fair.
So this is a cautionary number 3 ranking for me now, given the weight gain. But I'll keep him there for now out of respect of the fact that Pittsburgh Steeler bell cows are as safe of a bet for top 5 finishes dating back for as long as Mike Tomlin has been the head coach.
Okay.
That's it. Like when the Steelers have a bell cow, which they have always had under Mike Tomlin, he's a top 5 RB1.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Now,
I mean,
again, it's in flux.
Najee is gonna get his shot at 300 rush attempts. And he's probably gonna get his shot at 100 targets.
Yeah, conservatively 50 catches.
Yeah, last year he had 74.
Yeah, so
last year he had 307 rush attempts for 1,200 yards and 74 receptions for 467 yards. 10 total touchdowns.
And again, we've talked about how Ben Roethlisberger was a big factor in why Najee was catching so many passes, because it was just dump off after dump off, because that's as strong as Ben's arm was at the end of his career.
Right.
I'm not projecting 75 catches again, but conservatively 50, maybe more realistically 60 as a floor.
See, I like Najee.
Yeah.
But that report to me, I didn't feel better about that report, sleeping on the knowledge of that report after it dropped yesterday, pretty much while we were on stream, maybe a little bit before. No, it dropped before that. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the Marion Barber news. R.I.P. Marion Barber. But the Najee Harris weight gain news, it's not good news.
I agree.
You can spin it as it's all muscle. You guys, it's probably not all muscle. I've never heard of, I have never heard of a running back gain anywhere near this much weight when he came into the league as pretty built up, and it being a good thing. Never. We like to hear when running backs get slimmer.
When they trim down.
Le'Veon Bell slimmed down when he came into the NFL, was a completely different back in year 2. I mean, I'm blanking on names here to say, but there's a long list of running backs that slimmed down to get more efficient on the ground, and that worked for him. I've never heard of a running back getting bigger outside of Eddie Lacy, and it's a different kind of bigger. Najee's coming in rocked up. He's not coming in chubbier, I don't think.
Cheeseburgers, yeah.
I mean, I think it should probably a little bit of both, because I mean that is part of bulking up in general. It's just
right, more protein, yeah.
Right. So that's not good news for his efficiency. 2021, yes, he was not in scoring position as much as we would have liked. His yards per carry was sub 4. His yards per carry was 3.9 yards per carry on 307 touches. If we're looking at that and thinking, I think his efficiency might dip in light of him getting heavier, which is the logical way to look at it.
Yep.
He really just might end up being volume play after volume play after volume play every season. And despite the fact that it's his second year in the league, I don't know if I'm all the way in on Najee Harris as high as RB3 or RB2. No, you said RB3. RB3. In redraft, and I know this isn't a dynasty discussion, but I would take this news of having Najee gaining 14 pounds of muscle, because that is what the news report says right now, and try to flip that into another running back plus some picks or something like that
Yeah.
in Dynasty. I'm trying to move off of Najee in light of this. But in redraft, I have him down at RB6, which is exactly where he finished last season in points per game, RB6.
Yep.
So I think maybe he gets some more work. Maybe, I mean, his receptions, to your point, they are going to get pared down more. He's not going to catch as many receptions as he did last season. Last season, not having Juju Smith-Schuster in that offense definitely also skewed things in his direction. True. Through the air.
Yep.
So if he gets a few more rush attempts with a rookie quarterback, but many less targets and receptions, and his efficiency dips, how can you have him that high? I think just talking it out with you, it's like maybe I should have him lower than RB6, but I think that would be a little disrespectful. So I'm gonna have him. He is my RB6, Najee.
Okay. So again, I mentioned I had a preliminary list of rankings prior to the news of the weight gain. So I wanted to be transparent that this was where I had Najee originally, and then the news came out that he weighs 14 pounds heavier than he did last year. So, like I said, this is a very fluid ranking having him this high. This was out of more respect of the fact that, yes, I expect fewer catches, but I expect potentially even more rushing attempts because the Steelers are going to be relying on an unproven quarterback this year. And if we know anything about the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's that they are going to do whatever they need to do, whatever it takes, year in and year out to compete. And I think the way that they compete this year is by running the ball on offense, unless, Pickett exceeds all expectations or whomever ends up starting for them. If it's Trubisky, then it might even be worse.
What's going on, Rojo?
He's what's up, bro? He's at 3 for now. The weight gain gives me, I won't say serious concern, but definite pause because it's more stress on his hamstrings and all the cuts that he needs to make, all of the soft tissue in his lower body. There's more concern for me there. I am tentatively prepared to move him down to about 5, but because of the warts of the other running back, I have Ekeler at 4, you have him at 3. I think Eckler's workload is also potentially going to be scaled back, but obviously there's no reason to be concerned about Eckler's physical condition. So
here's the thing. We expect Najee Harris's workload to get scaled back in the targets and receptions area. We expect Eckler's workload to get scaled back in the rushing area. We expect or hope that Christian McCaffrey's workload gets taken back a little bit in the rushes for 3 yards and a cloud of dust area, right? With those running backs that they have on that roster. Mm-hmm. So because of that, targets being 2 times more as valuable in fantasy than a rush in a vacuum. Because of that, I got to put those other guys ahead of Najee. Maybe I have him a little bit too low. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into some of this.
I don't think so. You're not getting a big argument from me. Trust me.
Fair. But Austin Ekeler is my RB3.
Okay.
I mean, yes, he's a little bit older. The offense and his workload's going to get scaled back a little bit. If his workload gets scaled back a little bit on the ground, I'm not worried. If they continue to use him in the manner that they've used him through the air, I mean, 70 receptions last year, not the 300 rush attempts that Najee got, but 200 rush attempts, which is nothing to sneeze at. Maybe that gets scaled back down to 160 rush attempts, and maybe those receptions go up to what Alvin Kamara was getting with Drew Brees or something like that, which is around 85. 80 to 90, right?
Yeah.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all, man. They didn't. All they did was bring back everybody they had last year, and get a younger replacement at tight end, and then bolster their RB2 role
and their offensive line.
And their line, and they just got better as a team.
Mm-hmm.
But accounting for Justin Herbert having a little bit more growth, accounting for Keenan Allen getting 1 year older, I mean, you gotta love where Austin Ekeler is. And I really think them doing what they can to extend his longevity bodes well for him and is not something that I'm scared of, even in redraft or in Dynasty for 2022 and beyond, really.
Oh, not this year.
No.
Yes, he's getting up there. He's what, 27 now?
He just turned 27.
Just so for 2022, that's not a concern.
No. I mean, look what the Packers did with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They scaled back Aaron Jones's workload. Aaron Jones still finished as a very high-end running back too, despite missing games.
He might have finished as an RB1 in points per game. I'd have to double check that.
He was RB11 in points per game, and he missed 2 games.
Low-end RB1.
And after missing those 2 games, played with a running back that usurped him halfway through the season. That isn't the case in Los Angeles with the Chargers and Austin Ekeler. Isaiah Spiller is not going to usurp.
He's no A.J. Dillon.
Austin Ekeler at all, right?
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller is no A.J. Dillon.
So Aaron Jones is still the RB1 here, Ekeler is still the RB1 here. I think of it more as how it was in 2020 with the Packers and Aaron Jones, when Aaron Jones finished as RB4 despite the presence of an A.J. Dillon there. Yeah. And remember, A.J. Dillon is light years ahead of Isaiah Spiller in terms of what we expect them to produce in their career.
Not close.
So, I mean, if Aaron Jones was the RB4 in points per game in 2020 with an A.J. Dillon, we can expect Austin Ekeler, and that was, 201 rush attempts, and that was 47 receptions. He just scored an insane amount of touchdowns. That can be Austin Ekeler this year.
Yeah.
That can be Austin Ekeler this year, a guy who does it off of pure efficiency because he plays in one of the best offenses in the league and is utilized in the correct manner. That's all. I mean, that's Austin Ekeler this year, and so.
Yeah, I got him as my RB4. I got him as my RB4, and like I said, the lofty expectations that I have of Najee, I wanted to be transparent about coming into this stream. It is fluid that I have him that high. Ekeler is my RB4, so of course, if the vibes start to get lesser with Najee as the offseason progresses into training camp, I have no problem moving Ekeler as my RB3. He's a bona fide locked in RB1, top 5 upside. I do believe he will get a bit of an Alvin Kamara treatment this year. He has himself asked the coaching staff to kind of scale him back for that very reason, preserve him and extend his career. You do that by taking carries away from him and adding targets. I have no reason to believe, and again, the Chargers have one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. They want to throw the football.
Yeah.
They should want to make Ekeler a much larger, not much larger. There's not too much. No,
much larger.
There. Larger role in the offense from a pass catching perspective, less so as a runner. That's what you have Spiller for. That's what you have the other plotters for. I know Justin Jackson isn't there anymore, but like you can get by with Jags running the ball. Your Larry Roundtrees, your Joshua Kellys, your guys they're plotters, they're boring, they can get you 4 yards here and there. Ekeler has much more value as a pass catcher. He's my RB4. He's got room to move up to the RB3 again. I had lofty expectations for Najee. I'll keep him there for now. Eckler's right on his heels.
What's going on,
Alex?
That's
my RB4.
I hope you're enjoying France, bro.
What's up, Alex?
Any suggestions on my next pick at 410 in my Campus to Canton Dynasty PPR startup? Leaning Dobbins heavily. Sent the question to the Discord 10 minutes ago. Oh, yeah. Well, who else is there? Let us know who else is there. We are hesitant to go all in on Dobbins, even though he should have a bright dynasty future. It's just his current status is a little bit muddy, and I don't know if you specifically want to invest in having both Andrews and Dobbins. That's and you don't.
Do I see Alvin?
You
Kamara
have Lamar
there?
though, so I don't know. We let us know.
Do I see Alvin Kamara there, Alex?
Does
he posted I see Devontae Adams.
Picture in the description in the Discord. What's going on, Mike?
I see a picture do I see Devontae Adams? I'll I just, Alex, I'm a believer of the fact, like, I think you have the makings of one of the more competitive rosters this year.
Devontae Adams is in there.
Devontae Adams, looks like he's available.
Bro, yeah.
I would just take Devontae.
Just press the button on Devontae.
I would just take Devontae.
Wow. With that squad, dude.
Yeah, I know that you could build a full Raven stack with Dobbins, but Devontae freaking Adams helps you win a chip this year.
Pass to the running back in that offense, so a stack is quarterback is less appealing. So I'd go Devontae Adams for sure.
He said he doesn't want old guys. I understand that. Devontae Adams is
keep him from
20?
1 year and then trade him when he's 30. Think of Julio Jones when he was 30. You could still get a first round plus. You could still get a future first rounder plus for Julio Jones when he was 30. That's the kind of guy that Devontae Adams is. I wouldn't feel bad about getting Devontae Adams here.
No, and he will turn 30 in December. His birthday's on Christmas Eve. Devontae Adams will turn 30 before the season ends, but he will spend most of the season in his age 29 season. He's still elite.
After the offseason.
Yeah, he's still elite.
After the season.
He's still a high-end wide receiver 1. I know he changed role. I know he changed teams. I know the quarterback situation is lesser, but he's a layup for 150 targets.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr, it's not like Derek Carr is Sam Darnold. We were just talking about the Panthers. Derek Carr's a pretty good quarterback. He's not Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he's even pretty good. I think he's a great quarterback that has never been given the chance to be in the spotlight despite being on a spotlighty team.
Derek Carr can get it done.
He's just dealt with a crappy organization. He's a really good quarterback.
Yeah, Derek Carr is a good quarterback.
He's
a good quarterback. Yeah. It's between him and Alvin Kamara because again, I'm going for the chip with the foundation that you have so far. Give me Adams.
Hey, yo, Alex, don't worry about hijacking this stream, bro. You're good.
You're good. We threw Dynasty AM in there. We're gonna mix it in. We'll get back to the top 12. You're fine.
If your league mates are avoiding old players, then hey, you got to capitalize on that and say, hey, I'm going to use this to my advantage. If they're not
going to take them, I will, and I'll just go win a chip this year.
And then trade them all next year, and then go with your youth movement. And with that squad that you have right now, you can do that. Sell off these old players that you're getting before their cliff after this next year, and still compete next year.
Yep.
Again, yeah.
Let them being overly concerned about age be your game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would take Devontae.
Yeah.
And go for the chip this year. Let everything else figure itself out later. That's what I would do. If you really don't want to do it, I would take Kamara. It's looking more and more like, and he did crack my top 12 for what it's worth.
I would just say go Devontae Adams.
I agree. I would take Devontae. If you really don't
I like
Kamara.
I've loved Kamara throughout his whole career. I would not think of taking Kamara here.
With Devontae Adams on the board.
With Devontae Adams on the board.
I'm taking Devontae Adams.
What's going on, Crumply Heads? What's going on, Khalid?
What's going on, man? But yeah, I mean, and you could also actually Derrick Henry's there as well. But I like the idea of getting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Give me the anchor at wide receiver, because that's what Devontae is. Give me the anchor,
who is not just a 1-year buy.
No, should have a couple more years left.
Yeah,
should have at least 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, so you can still sell him
high end
at a high cost next season after you win that ship with them this season.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And all right, so before we get back to the rankings, Crumply Head, what do I need to do to maximize help from you guys formally? You already know. But I mean, honestly, if you join as a member, we pay extra attention to the members in the Discord. They get 1 extra stream a week where it's just them, so we get to hyper focus on their questions. And there are different tiers to accommodate whatever you can put towards a channel like ours.
There's been a bit of a gap, but we do have members-only content rolling out once again in the near future.
And we haven't done any in a while, but we do team evaluations too. Yep, so we'll find a block of time that works for you and us, and we'll sit down with you in a personal Zoom call, go over your whole entire squad of whatever leagues with you. Doesn't matter what format. If it's deciding who to be keepers, who should be your keepers. Deciding what you should do with your dynasty team, where you should go in a rookie draft, where you should go how you should attack a startup even. That's just something free we offer to our members as well. And we'll be once we get enough members to be able to do this, we're going to be in leagues with all the members. So we're really looking forward to doing that. That is something that is going to happen this year. We are probably looking at a redraft league with the members this season, and maybe one fun one like a redraft and a guillotine, or a redraft and a zombie, or something like that. So that is something another perk of being a member here. And Khalid, if you would like to be a member, it is the first link in our description. So go down to the description, click on that link, and it'll
give you the details. It'll give you the details.
But we would love to have you as a member, man.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
More time chilling on Wednesdays and stuff.
If ultimately, just a caveat, if you ultimately decide it's not for you, not to just, these streams are here. We're here for you guys. We're doing rankings today. We're gonna continue on with those. But at the end of the day, we're here for as many people that want to come in and hang out with us and are interested in our help as possible. So, join the streams, join the Discord. The Discord is the second link in the description. You can keep the conversation going over there. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. You can ask questions. You can bounce suggestions off of people. The community is here to help as well. Yep. We would love to have you as a member, but if ultimately you look at the options and think, maybe this isn't for me, you can still join the Discord, ask questions there. We will get to that as fast as we possibly can. And of course, we still have our streams, like our Tuesday and Thursday streams. If you join them as much as you can, if you have questions as they are, as our streams pop up for you, we're here to help.
Absolutely.
But the member options and information is the first link in the description of this video and all of our videos on this channel. But if you need help with that, let us know. With that said, so far we are going through some 2022 running back rankings for anybody who is joining late or just recently joining. So far, we got Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey as the consensus 1 and 2.
Yep.
John has Austin Ekeler as his RB3. I tentatively had Najee Harris as my RB3. I was bullish on him. The recent reports of the weight gain have me a little bit concerned. I have Ekeler as my RB4. If the vibes are weird about Najee as we progress into training camp, he will be moving down my rankings. I just believe in Steelers bell cow backs historically under Mike Tomlin. But that's where we're at. I believe.
So my RB4.
We need John's RB4.
And I don't think you're going to have him this high. It's Dalvin Cook.
I don't have him this high, but I do like the Vikings this year.
Dalvin Cook in 2019 and 2020 was the RB2 in back-to-back seasons in points per game, despite only playing 14 games apiece in those seasons. And in 2019, 250 rushes, 53 receptions, 13 total touchdowns. 2020, 312 rushes, 44 receptions, 316 yards, 17 touchdowns.
Sheesh.
And in 2021, people like to point to 2021 as like a step back for him. Maybe he's getting older, type of thought process on Dalvin Cook, to the point where maybe he gets to his production cliff. He still had 4.7 yards per carry last season.
Very efficient player. Very efficient
250 rush attempts, so not as many rush attempts as the year before. And not as many receptions, which is why I think he was only the 9th best running back in fantasy points per game with 15.9, but 34 receptions across 13 games. what do we expect from the Vikings this season? They didn't go after another wide receiver outside in the 5th round in Jordan Naylor. They signed
Albert Wilson.
They signed Albert Wilson. Nobody cares. I'm sure Albert Wilson's mother does. Congratulations.
Right.
But they drafted Ty Chandler, a running back. So what is that? To me, that points to consolidated workload share for pretty much every player that we have already projected and we already saw last season in this offense outside of Irv Smith, who takes over for Ty Conklin. Outside of that, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook. That's the touch distribution in this offense, and this offense should be finally getting out from the 19th century way of playing football. They're finally coming into the 21st century with the new coaching staff and GM that they have there. It's a point that Nick has been slamming the table for the past few Vikings seasons. And we saw what occurred this past offseason with their organizational structure. Nick pointed it out to me, and it's been something that has been eye-opening to me as a possibility for the Vikings and all skill position players involved. A few days ago, Adam Thielen was on the Pat McAfee show, and he was talking about just how much things have changed or seemingly changed. He talked about having 8 offensive coordinators in his career, and something being markedly different about this one. Something being very appealing to an offensive skill position player about this one as opposed to any other offense that has ever been installed while he's been in Minnesota, which is a long time. 32-year-old player. That has to bode well for Dalvin Cook. We've already seen Dalvin Cook say that reports come out on Dalvin Cook saying that he has been utilized more as a receiver,
lining up as a
receiver in OTAs than ever before. So I don't care, again, if he gets less rush attempts. If he's getting anywhere near the 50 receptions, the 44 receptions that he got in 2019 and 2020, which I would expect based on this news. They drafted another running back to take away some rushes away from him. They're splitting him out wide in OTAs early on. Continuity all over this offense. Didn't bring in anybody else to take touches away from him. He's going to outperform what he did in 2021. He should be more efficient on his touches. He should have more high-value touches. I mean, again, 13 touchdowns 2019, 2022, or 2020, 17 touchdowns, 2021, 6. That's the difference. And he still finished RB9 in fantasy points per game.
Yeah, but
he scores a few more touchdowns, and he catches a few more receptions, and he's right back in the top 6, top 5 conversation. And to me, I mean, when last we saw Dalvin Cook utilized the way he should be utilized, 2 years straight, RB2 in fantasy points per game. So for me, I have him at RB4 because I think the cliff is coming, as it is for every running back. I don't think it's there yet with Dalvin Cook.
No. How old is Dalvin? He's not old.
He's 26. He will
26.
be turning
He'll be 27 in August.
Season.
So it's Austin Ekeler, which we're not. Again, for 2020. Now Dalvin Cook is more of a.
I would
runner.
say it's Melvin Gordon, and look what Melvin Gordon has done the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. Well, he's a more explosive Melvin Gordon.
Right, he's Melvin Gordon with RB1 upside.
With some extra wheels. Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant from an age perspective with Ekeler, where it's like.
No, that's what I was talking about as an age perspective with Melvin Gordon. The
concern is not yet.
Yeah.
We got one more year where it's like I'm not even thinking about that.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess I should maybe take my own advice because I have him as my RB6. So that's where you have Najee. This is where I have Dalvin Cook. So full disclosure, Derrick Henry is my RB5, and that's more out of respect to Derrick
Henry. Exactly the same ranking as you for Derrick Henry, and it really is more out of respect for him than me thinking that he is gonna really do anything great this season.
Which, I mean, he could. It's more of like a career accomplishment type of ranking for Henry. But anyway, that's why Dalvin Cook is not a little bit higher for me. But yeah, I'm in agreement. You have him as your RB4. I have as your RB6. Najee bumps him down a bit for me. Again, fluid ranking, having not that high on. You pretty much nailed it. I'm very high on the Vikings offense this year. I expect Dalvin Cook to be a big part of that. We've seen Alexander Mattison be a damn good running back. It makes perfect sense for the Vikings to want both of them on the field if they can. And that means, to me, put Mattison in the backfield and put Dalvin Cook in the slot. Like, that's what it should be. You have two bona fide outside receivers in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And I like KJ Osborne, but Dalvin Cook is a much more
name other running backs,
playmaker.
Despite what happened last year with the Vikings, name other running backs that took over games last year.
Well, it's Taylor. It's Taylor. It's Henry. It's the guys that we've already mentioned.
Right, but Dalvin Cook is the guy that nobody thinks about, or at least nobody puts in that role, who does it all the time. He just does it on a team that nobody's really paying attention to.
Right. Cook does it too. And battling through injuries himself, as far as, you know, he is somebody who has he misses a couple games a season due to injury, so people have a little bit of pause, but he plays through them as well, and he's a big-time explosive playmaker.
Week 2, 22 attempts, 131 yards. Week 6, 29 attempts, 140 yards. Week 8, 17 attempts, 110 yards. Week 13, 27 attempts, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns.
That was that Pittsburgh game where people were worried. I specifically remember telling people to play Dalvin Cook, and there were people I said, play this man. And he popped. I couldn't have expected what he did, but just goes to show you what his ceiling is.
And that was in a down year.
Yeah.
Like a supremely down year.
Yeah.
And he should, I mean, and
still finished as an RB1.
Yeah. RB9 in fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Dalvin Cook is very good. We feel very strongly about the Vikings offense this year, taking strides moving forward. I think they're going to have more scoring opportunities this year. The defense was bad last year. If they're even marginally better, Dalvin Cook might see more work late in games, neutral game script. Yeah, he absolutely deserves a top 5 ranking. I couldn't quite fit him in, but he's right there. I'm totally fine with having him as your RB4. I need more shares of him in best ball.
Yeah, man. And RB5, we both have Derrick Henry, and it's more out of, again, respect for what he's done in the past than any real expectation for him moving forward. Primary concern with him is the injury concern, the age concern, coming off a Jones fracture at age 28, 29. He's and having the touch accumulation that he's had over the past 3 seasons. He's bucked the trend for 400 touch running backs 3 years running. It has to catch up with them at some point. I have him ranked this high because the Tennessee Titans traded away A.J. Brown. I know they brought in Treylon Burks. They traded away A.J. Brown. I have not, and have reportedly come out and said they will not re-sign Julio Jones.
No, that experiment failed.
So Kyle Phillips went there in the draft as well. They brought in Robert Woods, but Robert Woods is one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the league historically. That is the number one trait that the Titans front office came out and said post signing him or trading for him. I forget which one it was. But I mean, that's not really what you want to hear as a Robert Woods owner. What's going on, Hunter? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
What's up, Hunter?
But yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry, he's gonna get a ton of work again. That was my point with saying all that, with having a rookie wide receiver instead of A.J. Brown, with not having Julio Jones and having him replaced by a rookie too. Derrick Henry's going to get a ton of work until he gets injured. He might not be efficient, but the workload that he's going to get has me saying there's no way I can put him less than 5th.
No, this has got to be where I put him. They're going to run him into the ground.
If he's available, and all the other wide receivers are off the board for me if I'm drafting 112 and or 110 or something, and Chase and Jefferson are gone, and the you know, and
gone.
Yeah, and I don't have a shot at any of the guys ahead of him. I still might be looking at a Najee over a Derrick Henry, even though I have Derrick Henry at RB5.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't get hurt, Hunter, but he has to at some point. He did last year. The injuries have to happen at some point. He can't keep on running for 400 touches a season and continue this. He can't.
And that's a not fluky. It's a tricky. I misspoke when I said fluky. Jones fractures are tricky injuries that are easy. We hope it's not the case, but they are easy to re-aggravate injuries. That's that type of injury. That being said,
the last time, and we brought
he's on the
this
field,
up
he's getting
last
30
year,
carries.
The last time that we saw a player rush back from a Jones injury, a Jones fracture injury, was Sammy Watkins with the Bills, and I think it derailed his entire career.
And he was much younger.
He was 24, I think, 23, 24.
Yeah,
to your point, Hunter, we've never seen a man like Henry. We've never seen a man like Henry. Even Emmitt Smith, even like all the guys, Barry Sanders.
No, he's an outlier.
We've never seen a running back like Henry.
He's an outlier. He's in the best. I mean that as like the biggest potential compliment to Derrick Henry. He is an outlier.
Like people like to say, built different. No, this is the one dude that can literally say that.
This is where that's where that saying
and it
applies.
means something, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's crazy for us to continue to doubt this guy when he's proven us wrong every single season. But he's 28, going on 29. And coming off a Jones fracture where he rushed back from the Jones fracture to play in the playoffs, didn't look good in the playoffs, didn't re-injure himself, but still, the last time I saw somebody come back from a Jones fracture too soon, it was Sammy Watkins at a much less physical position, and it ruined his career.
You could also, different sports, so maybe apples to oranges, but also the one that sticks out to me is Kevin Durant when he was with the Warriors.
Yeah.
Suffered a similar fracture in his foot in the playoffs. Rushed back to get to the NBA to play in the NBA Finals. Lasted maybe a quarter, and re-aggravated it. Missed all of the following season. That was his first year when he signed with Brooklyn. Again, basketball compared to football, but this is it's a similar style injury. It is concerning as far as it's easy to re-aggravate it. Now he's had plenty of time to rest and recover since that playoff game, and I fully expect him to, if he's able to stay healthy, which we hope he does, get 400 touches once again this year. And if he does, he's gonna be a top 5 running back, which is where we are putting him right now. We're not putting him at RB10. We're not putting him outside the top 12. He's firmly RB5, and I have no reason to move him down.
I will say this.
But if he gets 400 carries, he will be an easy slam dunk high end RB1.
He was not efficient last year.
That injury though.
It was his least efficient season since 2017.
He was balling out though. Got a lot.
He was balling out because he had 219 rush attempts in 8 games. Dude, like what? Do the math on that. Do the math on that. That's over 400 rush attempts, not just touches. Rush attempts. Yeah. His high in rush attempts in the 16-game season prior to that was 378. He was on pace for more than 30 more touches on the ground last year than any other season in which he had 400 touches all told. And on top of that, he had 18 receptions last year. In 2020, when he finished as RB1, I believe, he was RB1. He had 19 total receptions. So he had one less reception in half the amount of games. So it's not just the rush attempts, dude. He was on pace for 500 touches.
500 touches. Well, maybe
so he might be that built different dude.
He is.
That can withstand 400 touches back-to-back seasons. But can he withstand 500 touches? Clearly no, because he only lasted 8 games. Clearly no. And the premium that we put on him based on what he was doing as opposed to the other running backs last season, it wasn't efficiency based, it was touch based. Worst,
big time
least efficient season, first time under 4.9 yards per carry since 2020, since before 2018.
Not that it was bad.
It wasn't bad, but it was his second worst season efficiency wise ever. That says something. So yes, he might be that dude, and he might get in the next 8 games another 220 rushes and 20 receptions. Like he might get that, but then he's gonna get injured because nobody can handle 500 touches a game or a year. Nobody
I won't
can
guarantee he gets injured.
Yeah, I think he gets banged up.
It's just it's tough to sustain that much of a workload. Can he do it? Yeah. Will they give it to him? Yeah.
Yes.
AJ Brown's gone. Derrick Henry is the bread and butter of that offense anyway. Now AJ Brown is gone. You know, you replace him with a rookie and a Robert Woods who's recovering from an injury of his own. They're going to give Derrick Henry all the work he can handle. I'm not, again,
to that point.
I think he could give you
RB5.
an RB1 room. Yeah, I think he can give you an RB5 season this year. After that, though, that's when it's like, okay, he's probably going to hit that 1,800 touch threshold this year.
He'll be tops in
career.
fantasy points per game, but he will not finish the full season. I
won't
refuse
predict
to believe that. I am predicting that. So
I
RB5.
Won't predict that.
In RB6, I have Najee here, and you, I believe, had Dalvin Cook, right?
Yeah.
So RB7.
Yeah, that's where. And real quick, Hunter, do we think the offense will run the same as last season? Yes. I'm not doubting Derrick Henry is going to get all the work he can potentially handle. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to have an RB1 season. But he's got to stay on the field. Jones fractures are tricky. That's all. I'm not. I'm not
offense,
like I'm rooting. I hope it doesn't.
And the
happen.
offense the run game itself was more efficient last season with the collection of Donta Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard than it was with Derrick Henry getting 30 touches a game. It was 35 touches a game. It was more efficient with those other guys. The fantasy points, the touches per attempt, and all that stuff. Touches per attempt.
It went up. Yeah, their offense was fun. I mean, no disrespect to Derrick Henry, he's their engine, but like they were fine even without him.
Ryan Tannehill was worse because Ryan Tannehill is a play-action quarterback, and without Derrick Henry, he's exposed. Without that guy, but the offense itself, the run game itself ran better, even though the entire offense was slightly worse.
And they still finished as the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I know they flamed out to the Bengals, but they were still the number 1 seed.
So the offense will probably run the same.
It'll run the same, and Derrick Henry will do his thing.
But he'll get injured, and I'm predicting that, which is why I don't have him RB2.
We hope he doesn't, but
he's more of an injury risk than a Christian McCaffrey, than all these other guys. So, yeah. But RB7, because I'm done talking about Derrick Henry.
Okay, there you go. I have Dalvin Cook as RB6. We already talked about him. You have Najee as RB6. We talked about him because I have him a little bit higher. My RB7 might be a little higher than what I'm not sure where you have
where you
this
have
guy.
Javonte?
No, actually, Javonte did not make my top 12.
Me neither. I'm happy to hear that you're not pumping his ADP up any more than it needs.
I love him, but I have to temper expectations a little bit. It's DeAndre Swift is my RB7.
Okay. He's my RB8.
Okay, so we're close. This is simple. He averaged 18 fantasy points per game last year, and the offense got better. The offensive line is excellent. Detroit's offensive line is very good. They have a bright future. Jared Goff is a quarterback who we've seen support high-end RB1s before. He is he'll dump it off all day long. That's not a problem. DeAndre Swift is an elite pass catcher at the running back position. They get back Hawkinson. They add Jamison Williams through the draft. They add DJ Chark in free agency. Amon-Ra St. Brown emerged last year. This is a good offense. And if Jared Goff can just be adequate, they should have ample scoring opportunities this year. Their defense is still atrocious. Maybe not atrocious with, they did draft Aiden Hutchinson number 2 overall, but it's still very much a work in progress, especially the secondary. This defense is probably going to give up some points this year. The offense is going to have to keep pace. The offense is going to have to be the strength of this team. And I think they're going to be good because the pieces are in place. The only sort of question mark is quarterback. And we've talked about this before. Jared Goff is not great. I don't even know if Jared Goff is good, but he's decent enough to support high-end fantasy production because we've seen him do it before for multiple players per offense per season. I have no reason to believe DeAndre Swift can't duplicate an easy 15-plus point fantasy points per game expectation this year, and I think he's a threat to catch 90 balls. Again, this is an offense that very well could be playing from behind a lot this year if the defense is still very subpar like we expect. The average points per game is there. The offense got a little bit better. I fully expect all of the work that Amon-Ra St. Brown got to end the season last year, some of that gets funneled back to DeAndre Swift, potentially as the number 1 option in this offense in general. I like Jamal Williams as a change of pace back, but that's what he is. He's going to be a backup to DeAndre Swift. This is not a committee. This is like, I could see it, at best, it could be like when Jamal Williams was in Green Bay and Aaron Jones is still getting 65% of the work. If DeAndre Swift gets 65% of the work, he's an RB1 this year.
I have DeAndre Swift at RB8.
Okay.
So 1 spot lower, and
What's going on, Mitchell? We'll get to your
I'll get to his
shortly.
later, but and we'll get to your questions in a sec. But I'm really high on DeAndre Swift.
He's gonna be good.
But I do not think. I don't know if he replicates his fantasy points per game that he had last season, moving forward. At least for 2022, so the redraft season. The reason I say that is, yes, the offense got better, so we can expect more total touchdowns. But
or at least scoring opportunities.
I think his receptions per game are going to go, targets and receptions per game is going to go down slightly. And I think in an effort to keep him healthy, yes, there just like there are reports that Najee Harris bulked up. There are reports that DeAndre Swift bulked up. I don't know if you saw that the bicep thing that went around on Twitter.
Yeah, he's bulked up.
But he's bulked up too to withstand a workload in his a heavier workload in his 3rd season. But I mean, there were games where last year he was the entire offense. When Hawkinson went down and they didn't have anybody outside of Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds, who were cast-offs in their own right, running routes on the outside, taking targets away from DeAndre Swift. When TJ Hawkinson, even when he wasn't getting the touches that we wanted him to get as fantasy owners, we're both fantasy owners of Hawkinson, we wanted him to get more touches when we were kind of like, why isn't he getting more touches? Even while he was healthy, it was DeAndre Swift last season. And Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't start firing until really everybody else, including DeAndre Swift, went down. But now they're going to have to, we expect them to allocate more work for Amon-Ra St. Brown moving forward in the first place. So that's going to take away some short to intermediate targets from DeAndre Swift. And then you have upgrades in Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds turning into a Jameson Williams, who might be one of the most electric players in the NFL, or we expect him to be within the next 3 seasons, most likely, from the wide receiver position. At least one of the most electric prospects to come out in a while. And DJ Chark on the other side, who's a reclamation project coming off an injury, who is trying to rehab his value and is at least a couple steps above Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds. Say what you will about DJ Chark. So all that,
he's better.
They're going to take targets away from DeAndre Swift regardless. We like running backs who are getting more targets this year, not less targets. The bulking up means that, okay, maybe he gets a little bit more work on the ground. But again, I'd rather my running backs get more targets than touches on the ground.
Oh yeah, of course.
If he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a low-end RB1. I just don't know if he's going to be a mid-tier RB1 because of the scaled-down workload. Because like last year in 2020, his first season, 13 games, 114 rush attempts, 521 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, 46 receptions compared to the 62 he got last year, 357 yards through the air, and 10 touchdowns as opposed to the 7 last year. If he gets his receptions scaled back, scores more touchdowns due to the nature of the overall offense getting better, and has a few more rushes than the 114 if his rush attempts go up to the a little bit more than even the 151 he got last year. I still think that's a recipe for RB12, RB11. And I'm being optimistic putting in him RB8. But I can't put him up any higher than RB8, even if it's splitting hairs between who I have at RB7.
Okay. I think he can be a mid-tier RB1. I have no reason to. I mean, yes, you want to include players like Amon-Ra, St. Brown more into your game plan moving forward, but I think not at the expense of a player of DeAndre Swift's caliber. Maybe I think he can catch 70 balls this year. And here's the last thing I'll say about him bulking up, because we're concerned about Najee, right, with the bulking up news. Najee Harris was already 230 pounds before bulking up. DeAndre Swift was around like 210 pounds. So this is a situation.
5'8", 212.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bulking up here for him is better. Is good. Like if he's playing weight is now around that 220, 225, that's that sweet spot.
That's where Najee was, though, even though he's 3 inches taller.
Najee, I think, was like 230.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was okay. Yeah.
So Swift getting to that point, or maybe a little less, that's that sweet
His
spot
weight gain is more like what Chris Carson went through, which is what I alluded to yesterday, which ended up working out for him. So we do have there are scenarios in which a running back getting a little bit heavier in terms of bulking up is a good thing. But
like a Travis Etienne bulking up, that's
bulk,
good
even
news.
if it is the majority of it is muscle, too much will slow you down regardless. It might make you more able to handle the 400 touch workloads that a Derrick Henry gets. Maybe that's in Najee Harris's future. But
could be.
The efficiency goes down. No way to get around that.
Okay. I'm less concerned about the Swift bulk up news than Najee.
All that to say, I agree with you there.
Okay, word. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so I got Swift at 7.
Let's get to this the chat here. Let's catch up.
Oh, yes. We can do that. Mitchell, the first question was, what are we doing with A-Rob? Drafting him in the 5th round of redraft this year?
Yeah, I love A-Rob.
Yeah, I mean, take last year's disaster out of the equation when the Bears offense, for the most part in general, was a disaster. Thanks, Matt Nagy. Allen Robinson is a perennial low-end wide receiver 1. Now he is truly, unequivocally, unquestionably in the best situation of his career, attached to the best quarterback of his career, in the best offense of his career. He's gonna play second fiddle for the first time in his career,
which might work for him.
But that might be fine when the dude who's playing second fiddle to literally just had an historic season at the wide receiver position. Cooper Kupp is going to be drawing triple teams this year, not double teams, triple teams. Maybe that's a bit facetious, but Cooper Kupp is going to draw so much attention from opposing defensive coordinators. They're not going to have much more of a choice than to just hope and pray that, their other guy can handle Allen Robinson one-on-one.
Think about what Odell Beckham Jr. was doing last season for the Rams. Pretty much as soon as he went in the lineup, he was scoring touchdowns on minimal work.
Every week.
Because all the coverage was, oh my God, what are we going to do about Cooper Kupp? He's burning us up. And then Odell Beckham gets a touchdown because defense was so focused on Cooper Kupp, who had 150 yards by that point. Like, that was every single game. once Odell Beckham Jr. got in the game plan, and even before that with Robert Woods was wide receiver 16 or 17 prior to going down. I don't know the exact one, but he was in between there. 16 or 17, he was one of those numbers. I do remember that much before going down. So yeah, I mean, I like Allen Robinson a whole lot more than I like Robert Woods. Respect to Robert Woods. I like Allen Robinson a whole lot more at this point in their careers than I like Odell Beckham Jr. And Allen Robinson, yes, he had a bad season last year where he only had 66 targets, which was his least amount of targets in any season in which he played more than at least 10 games. Because even in his 10-game season in 2014, he had 80 targets. In 2021, he had 60, and they were low-quality targets. Of course, he didn't do well. But in 2020, in 2019, in 2016, all had over 150 targets. I think we might be able to expect that because something that was brought to my attention from listening to another podcast today, the Rams don't pass to running backs. They have something a 13% target share for all running backs.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see Cam Akers in our rankings today as a result. But to that point, they pass the ball to wide receivers. Allen Robinson has a chance to be getting 140, 150 targets opposite Cooper Kupp, who's going to be warranting double coverage,
double teams every play.
Right. He could average more than a touchdown a game, and that's not even to say anything about the yardage that he'll accumulate. Allen Robinson is a supreme discount. Think about what happened last year. We all thought, or at least I did, and we were predicting on this channel, Robert Woods would be the guy to mesh with Matt Stafford, and it wasn't. It was Cooper Kupp.
It was Kupp.
But how did you benefit from the Rams offense in general from the wide receiver position last year philosophically? You took the guy with the later ADP in Cooper Kupp, and it turned out for you. It might not happen the same way with Allen Robinson, but Allen Robinson could come in with the lower ADP and definitely outperform where he's being drafted for sure. And there is a non-zero chance that he's closer to what Cooper Kupp's output is than what a Robert Woods, Odell Beckham Jr. amalgam's overall fantasy output was last season, all told.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have a top 3 pick in redraft, you're not getting Cooper Kupp. So by default, go get Allen Robinson in the 4th round.
And in Dynasty, that counts too. Like, I would be going out and getting all the Allen Robinson I can if I'm a contender. And if he costs a first, excuse me, sorry about that, a first and for Allen Robinson and a third or a second back, like, I would do that even in 2023. If it's a future second you're getting back, future third you're getting back, it's worth it.
If I'm contending,
If I'm contending, that's exactly the type of move that I'm trying to do. So yeah, that's what we think about A-Rob. Go and get him.
You might be able to get away with like a 2nd round pick in 2023. You're maybe
honestly,
if you're selling the fact that the 2023 class is strong.
I think that's what he was going for before the LA Rams connection. Like, I think that's kind of where his value was. It wasn't quite a third. It was probably a second in 2022.
Late second. Yeah.
And, if your rookie drafts have already gone, 2023 picks have more value than 2022, and most people know that.
Yeah.
But I think his value is now like 2 seconds. First, and you get a third or a second back in the future. Something like that.
And if I'm a contender, I'm paying that.
Yes. I'm predicting
Johnny
another.
asked that
I'm
question
predicting
at the very
another
end
2
of the chat. So
high-end fantasy seasons for Allen Robinson.
Yeah. No problem with Allen Robinson. None.
And Mitchell, you also got our comments on Swift. I think we answered.
Are we higher on Swift though in Dynasty as compared
absolutely.
to redraft? Yeah, I mean, he's still only 23 years old. He should have another 4 or 5 years of really strong production.
Especially as a receiving first option. Yes.
And if moving forward, the Lions get a great young prospect at quarterback, which we expect them to be in contention for after this season. They're going to be looking to move on from Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not their long-term answer at quarterback. The quarterback class next year is highly touted, is expected to be strong, is expected to be good. That's Detroit. That's their last piece. That's the last thing they need. And I think I don't think they're going to be in a position to win more than, say, I expect the offense to be good. I expect the defense to remain a work in progress. If they only win 5 or 6 games, maybe they win 4 or 5, say like 5 games, they won't be at the very top of the round, but they are going to be in a position to move up if they need to.
Yeah. And Javonte, he doesn't belong in the top 12 this year, even though
sadly no.
He's somebody we're both very excited about. And
very high on.
Would you sell Swift on a rebuild team for 2 2023 firsts projected to be late? I think that's his price right now.
Yeah.
And in a rebuild, here's the thing. In a rebuild, I'm willing to sell everybody.
Right. Anybody has a price.
And 2 2023 firsts sounds like a value that I would be okay with. Because they're late, but you get a shot on doubling your investment. Yeah, you have DeAndre Swift. Yeah. DeAndre Swift was a late first round pick in his draft class, in a RB heavy draft class, because CEH went first. There were quarterbacks that went ahead of him.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor went ahead.
Right. So yeah, I mean, Swift was a probably mid to late first round pick. So if you can turn a mid to late first round pick in 2019 or 2018, and turn him into 2 first round picks, 2 running backs in 2023, a comparable class from this far out. We're predicting a comparable class with respect to the running backs. You have a chance to either get another Swift, a younger Swift that fits your timeline with respect to winning, and either diversify your interests in picking up another position and late in the first, a wide receiver or a quarterback, depending on where you need help, or just getting another running back in a running back heavy draft. So yeah, I mean, if the guy's offering you 2 2023 firsts, see if you can squeak out a little more. If you're throwing the offer out, I mean, 2 2023 firsts, even if they're projected to be late, would be, I think, on par for what you should be looking to get back from Swift. And I'm only advocating you do this in a rebuild, because if you're anything close to contending, you want Swift on your squad.
Agreed.
How you feel about Johnny Jones's question? What's going on, Johnny Jones?
What's up, Johnny? We're caught up. Sorry, we're caught up. I thought Mitchell had another question that we maybe didn't get to, but we did. Robinson, which one? Robinson or Bateman for this year?
No. In a sad predicament where the Pitts owner wants Swift.
Sorry. Missed that. The Pitts owner wants Swift or Kupp. Give him Swift. Give him Swift. I mean,
no. In a dynasty league,
give me Kyle
Pitts. You give him the 29-year-old wide receiver coming off a historic season. Swift.
What's
Swift
Johnny?
has room to grow, and Swift is a young player.
Yeah.
Yes, Kupp in a redraft league should be thought of as higher than a Swift, but in dynasty, 23-year-old running back who we expect to be playing in a better offense very soon with a better quarterback as soon as 2023. You want to keep that, especially if you're getting Pitts. And then look at that, Pitts and Swift. I'm happy with that. Kupp, 29-year-old wide receiver going on 30, with what we just said is better competition from the wide receiver 2 spot than he's pretty much ever played with. in Allen Robinson, we're not expecting a drop off, but I'm selling the 29-year-old / 30-year-old wide receiver all day. I'm keeping that running back. I mean,
that's fair.
Dynasty is all about getting younger, man.
No, I gotcha. That's
and selling
fair.
high.
I guess the rest of the
on a wide receiver's best.
Yeah, I guess, and
career.
that would allow you to do a 1-for-1. You wouldn't have to add anything else to get him.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would want to know, and I feel like Johnny saw your roster, but maybe earlier this week. But if you repost your receivers and backs, if your wide receiver depth is strong, then that makes it
No,
easy
he had Keenan Allen as a wide receiver 3.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So Cup.
He just bought Claypool, I believe.
So then sell. Yeah. Yep. So sell Cup.
Yeah. Sell
Swift.
Cup.
Yeah. I don't think I would
Cup.
try to get cute though and ask for more.
No.
Just do the 1-for-1 because Pitts is that dude.
And real quick to wrap up the chat, as it stands right now, as always, we'll come back to the chat to answer more questions, but we are going to get back to the rankings.
We're going to go back to the rankings.
We
finish
addressed
those
what
off.
Allen Robinson's price will be. Robinson or Bateman for this year?
Picks. For this season?
They're in the same tier.
They're real close. Robinson's a wide receiver 2 and a great passing offense. Bateman is a wide receiver 1. But also potentially his team's number 2 target because Mark Andrews is that dude for Baltimore.
To be honest, touchdown upside for me goes to Robinson.
That's fair. And the Rams are going to throw the ball more than the Ravens.
Yep.
I give the slightest of edges to Robinson because we've actually seen him be a wide receiver 1 before. We think Bateman's going to get there. And we are big believers of Bateman, but Robinson has actually done it. And now in terrible situations, he's done it. Now he's in the best situation of his career. What are you mumbling about?
I got to stop drinking seltzer water during streams. It tends to make me a little bit burpy.
Creates a stream for you?
No, I'm just burping on the mic all the time.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's
sorry,
good.
y'all. Would you trade CEH for Robinson in Dynasty? Absolutely.
Yeah.
In that situation, I'm not afraid to move off a young running back who hasn't.
Clyde just hasn't done it.
Right. Like the light hasn't turned on for him. He isn't that type of guy. Swift is that type of guy. We're at 23. I want to hold him because there are better days ahead. CEH, there's no guarantee. They brought in more competition pretty much everywhere for him, and he still has yet to fire. So if you can move off of him for a wide receiver that is younger than Cooper Kupp, for a wide receiver we expect to bounce back in a big way, I'd be fine with that.
28.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 28. He'll be 29 in August, so he is older. But at the end of the day with Dynasty, yes, we always want to get younger, but also I'll take an older proven player than over a younger player who has so far failed to meet expectations.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like between CEH and Swift, same draft class, both young. I believe they're the same age and 23 years old, but one has shown flashes and fired already, and one hasn't shown flashes and hasn't fired. So, yeah, that's the difference there. But yeah, I would be trying to trade Cooper Kupp for Pitts, but trying to trade CEH for Robinson as well. I think that's a win-win move. Win-win-win move. And yeah, Robinson edged slightly over Bateman this season. But my RB7, since yours is DeAndre Swift, mine's Joe Mixon.
We're right there. He's my 8.
Because Joe Mixon had a career year last year after being finishing healthy for the first time in recent memory, maybe ever.
Put it all together.
Maybe ever. Was it his healthiest season?
His sophomore season was pretty healthy. But that was 3 years ago. His sophomore season was pretty healthy, and then his third and fourth seasons were he dealt with some injuries.
Yeah, he was RB5 in fantasy points per game last year. He's never been the most efficient running back in the league, but he's always been dealing with terrible O-lines.
Awful teams.
I mean, you look at his yards per carry over the past 3 seasons, 4.1 in 2019, 3.6 in 2020, and 4.1 in 2021. He now finally gets the best O-line of his career. He now finally has the building blocks of running behind a great line for literally the first time in a to this point 5-year career.
4.1
so
behind
efficiency-wise, he should have the best efficiency running the ball year of his career. Another year with Burrow, third year with Burrow, second year with Jamar Chase. I mean, T. Higgins. This offense is one of the best offenses in the league.
Zach
best
Taylor's
young offenses in the league.
Play caller. They got. I believe in their coaching staff.
He's never been run into the ground like these other running backs.
No.
I mean, his high is 292 rush attempts, which is what he got last season.
That was last season. How many catches did he have?
42 receptions, which was the second most of his career.
So he
16
did go over 300
touchdowns.
Carries.
That was the big number last year. He had never had more than 9 in a year. 16 touchdowns. If this is what he was, or if 2021 was his Dalvin Cook 3 years ago year, then he has one more year of elite production. We typically see these years of elite production for running backs be like 2 years of elite production for these workhorse running backs. There's like a steady incline if they're not the ones that fire right away. Steady incline, 2 years of production, and then either a steep cliff or a slow incline from there. To me, Joe Mixon is going into his second career season, and then we might see a little bit of a dip from there. But playing in the best offense of his career, with the best O-line projected of his career, maybe best overall team of his career, catching more passes than ever before. And last year, if you remember, in the most important game they played last year, they weirdly went away from him in the fourth quarter. And that was something they got lambasted for. They are not going to do that again. They're going to be using Joe Mixon probably like he's never been used before, even last season. More efficient, more of a workload, entering what I believe to be his second opportunity for a career year.
With a good offense. Look what good offensive personnel around you does for a player.
Yeah, I mean Joe Mixon RB7 for me.
I love Mixon, man. I've been a big Mixon supporter for. I wasn't big on him his rookie season, but after that, I mean, the efficiency metrics dating back to college was the proof in the pudding. One of the best yards created. Shout out to the great Graham Barfield. One of the best pure creators of yards, regardless of the personnel around him, since the metrics started being tracked. I mean, 4.1 yards per carry behind what he was running behind it would be 4.6, 4.7 yards.
It would be
5.1,
dude.
Carry. Anywhere else.
It would be 5.1 on half of the teams in the NFL.
Anywhere else, yeah. The 16 touchdowns is, we got to expect some maybe negative touchdown progression or some regression this year. It's hard to duplicate that number. I'm not saying he'll score 6, but that is a lofty number that's hard to replicate. Just want to caveat that. But what you said, 42 catches last year?
Yeah.
There's no reason he can't catch 50 balls. There's no reason. Here's the reason. Here's the only reason. They love playing Samaje Perine on third down, which is obviously completely out of Mixon's hands. So that's a little annoying. But again, that's a factor that has nothing to do with Mixon himself. Here's my only sort of drawback. And again, this has nothing to do with Mixon. It has everything to do with the Bengals as a whole. We have seen a common trend where the team that loses the Super Bowl the following year goes through some lull periods. We even saw it with the Kansas City Chiefs the high and mighty Kansas City Chiefs offense. Obviously, as a team, they still made it to the AFC Championship game. But do you remember in the middle of the season last year, there was a stretch where everybody was rightfully asking, what's wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
So is there some natural team regression, performance regression from the Bengals as a result of losing the Super Bowl? I think that's a very fair concern to have. So could there be some lull periods during the season where the Bengals offense as a whole struggles and Mixon is collateral damage as a result? I do think that's a concern, and that's why I have some other players like a DeAndre Swift over Mixon. He's still my RB8. I love the talent. The offensive line is easily the best he's had over the course of his career, so he's got that going for him. And Joe Burrow is if there's a short list of quarterbacks where whether you lose the Super Bowl or whatever the following season, you're still confident in their abilities as a player and as a leader. I think Joe Burrow is that type of guy. But, I mean, I would put Patrick Mahomes in the same tier. And he had a stretch of games where he wasn't throwing for more than one touchdown a game last year. So that's my only drawback. So my only concerns have nothing to do with Mixon himself. Outside of the potential negative touchdown regression, because 16 touchdowns is a lofty number. I think RB8 is fair. We have seen him finish as a mid-tier RB1. I would maybe put him on the lower tier RB1 spectrum this year because of that baked-in concern that I have about the Bengals offense maybe going through some lumps next year. But that's all. That's it.
I mean, I tend to think that the regression, if any, in this offense due to any Super Bowl hangover or whatever, if you're really superstitious like that, comes with the wide receivers, not necessarily the running backs.
I mean,
the wide receivers, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 5 in points per game, T. Higgins, wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game. Like, those are lofty numbers. Not a lot of quarterbacks can sustain 2 top 12 wide receivers in points per game 2 years running. Kirk did it once. Jameis did it once. Like, it's not something that happens. I think Tom Brady did it once, in points per game at least, not points by the end of the season, but
not
points
like
per game
finish,
with Evans and Godwin
overall.
And points per game. Right. It's not something that usually carries over from year to year, even if you don't win the Super Bowl. But the one thing that is a consistent rock for this offense, it's Joe Mixon. He should get more work, or they should have more confidence thrown his way because of what happened in the Super Bowl last year, if anything, with him not being played late into the game when they technically still had a chance. It was just a weird thing. I don't think they make that mistake. They make a point to go away from making those types of mistakes moving forward. A teachable moment for them, like the Seahawks not rushing the ball with Marshawn Lynch on the first yard line. They went more run heavy in years following that, even though the rest of the NFL went the other way. I think the same thing might not to the same extent, but the same type of thought process might happen with the Bengals with respect to Mixon. I think Mixon gets more work, and they have a worse receiving tight end who will affect the short to intermediate pass game. Hayden Hurst is worse from a receiving perspective than CJ Uzomah. CJ Uzomah is one of the better receiving specific tight ends in the league. Hayden Hurst is more of a do everything, can block, can catch passes type of guy, but he offers a little bit less in the receiving area. So some of that work might go to Tyler Boyd. Some of that work will probably get split up between the stud wide receivers, but some of that will probably go to Mixon as well. So
trickles down to Mixon.
Might have the most reception of his career. I wouldn't, like, to your
that
point,
I
wouldn't
can
be surprised
absolutely
for
believe.
him getting 50 receptions. So
that
Joe
I
Mixon,
can absolutely
RB7, DeAndre Swift for me, RB8.
And I have that flip-flopped.
Okay.
So we're on the same page as far as who the names are in our top 8 so far. Just a couple of flip-flops here and there. The biggest discrepancy being, I guess, Dalvin Cook versus Najee Harris. But yeah. I got Swift 7, Mixon 8. You have Mixon 7, Swift 8. So
I think
this
is another cliff after 8, because I think there's a little bit of a cliff after the top 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6. Maybe a cliff after the first 2, cliff after the first 6, And now there's another little cliff. Maybe not a cliff, but a tier break. Right.
Okay.
So who do you have at RB9?
My favorite guy ever.
James Conner?
Stop. He made the top 12, but not the RB9. It's Aaron Jones.
Okay.
And this is kind of simple for me. We've seen him have 2 top 5 running back fantasy finishes in his career. A little bit different story back then. Davante Adams was playing for the Packers. But we've seen him finish as the RB2. We've seen him finish as the RB5. This year, Davante Adams is gone. And so far, the Packers have replaced not just Davante Adams, but Marquez Valdes-Scantling with Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson, and Romeo Dubs. He's Dubs. Just moving forward. He's Romeo Dubs. So not exactly like, yes, they addressed it, but not exactly anything eye-popping. I think Aaron Jones, who is a upper echelon, very strong pass-catching running back out of the backfield in his own right, is a threat to see the most catches of his career in this new look offense that should utilize both running backs as much as they possibly can. A.J. Dillon led the team in carries last year out of the backfield, and some of that can be attributed to Aaron Jones missing a couple of games, but still, it happened. Dillon led the backfield in carries. I think that should happen again, but I think Aaron Jones should be used kind of in a reverse way that the 49ers used Deebo Samuel last year, where, yes, he mixes in both the backfield and as a receiver, but Aaron Jones should be their running back who's split out wide. Or even if you just line him up in the backfield, he's running a route. He's not in there to take a handoff or to pass block. He's in there to run a route. It's still a good offense, led by one of the greatest to ever do it in Aaron Rodgers. And, as of right now, as of the making of these rankings, the Packers pass catching core leaves a little bit to be desired, top to bottom. Aaron Rodgers trusts Aaron Jones. We've seen Aaron Jones perform and produce in a big way in the receiving department. I think you want to talk about running backs whose targets should go up. Aaron Jones seems like a prime candidate. Davante Adams leaves behind a floor of 150 targets. Sammy Watkins and 2 rookies are probably not going to absorb all of that work. I think Aaron Jones should be in line for the most targets and catches of his career. We've seen him have a nose for the end zone in the past. Last year was a bit of a down year for him, but by a points per game perspective, he was still an RB1. I think RB9 is a perfect ranking for him, and I think he's got room to grow, maybe more than anybody on this list. Maybe not anybody, but the room for tons of work in the receiving game is there, and we've seen him do it before in a big way. Super efficient, by the way. Super efficient.
I like every point you're making. He was not in, I have to come clean, he was not in my top 12 to begin this live stream. Oh, no. I am going to be moving around my rankings here shortly to put him in there. Right now, tentatively, I think I'm going to have him at RB11.
I think he can catch 65 passes.
I think I'm going to have him at RB11. Okay. I do think, A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, I believe in Dillon too.
We've talked about him being the 1A in this offense as soon as this year. Mm-hmm. 187 rush attempts to A.J. Dillon's or Aaron Brown's 171 rush attempts just last season, and almost the same amount of games played. Obviously, we know A.J. Dillon played 2 games without Aaron Jones. But I think that trend continues. Now, we talked a lot in this live stream about wanting running backs who are projected to catch more passes next year than rushes, if your rushes are scaled back, but you have more targets thrown your way. We're not moving off you. In fact, we're more apt to be moving towards drafting you or advocating drafting you, which is why I'm moving Aaron Jones up into my RB11 spot. But he was 11 in fantasy points per game last year. He was not his efficient self. And he finished RB12 in just overall half PPR finishes. He was RB12. But RB11 in fantasy points per game. So fantasy points per game falls in line with where he finished at the end of the year. To the point that I made earlier about running backs having really 2 elite seasons in the middle of the career if they aren't the ones that fire early, if they're the ones that grow into their role. In 2019, RB3 in fantasy points per game. 2020, RB4 in fantasy points per game. And then A.J. Dillon came along and became really the 1B last year, and he went down to 11. That's not changing for me. A.J. Dillon has a very large role in this offense moving forward, and he can catch passes too.
Yes, he can.
So while his efficiency might get a little bit better, his workload is going to get scaled back. But I am going to have him finishing exactly the same spot I had him finishing where he finished last year in fantasy points per game. I expect him to be RB11. So I am adjusting him to be my RB11 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think he deserves that. I mean, I don't care where you have him. I think he deserves to be in the top 12. Maybe like to a lesser extent the way we're giving Derrick Henry like the career like honor of like this. We can't possibly put this dude lower than 5th. I can't possibly rank Aaron Jones as an RB2 when all he's done is be an RB1 for his career. And even in a down year last year, he still averaged 4.7 yards per carry.
Your point is real. I stand corrected. And I agree.
I think he catches, and last year was actually a career high for him in catches with 52.
Yes, it was.
I think he catches 15 more than that. I think again with the Devontae Adams departure and no other obvious, with Alan Lazard being the one to potentially step up as the wide receiver 1 for this team, I have no reason to believe Aaron Jones can't catch 60 plus.
So I have him at RB11 now. You have him at RB9.
I have him at my RB9. Who you got as your RB9?
Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have Leonard Fournette at RB9 because for all the reasons why we loved Gronk a few live streams earlier, because Godwin's out the whole season, target competition is Russell Gage, and Leonard Fournette quietly had 69 receptions last season, 454 yards, and that is probably going to be scaled up with not having Chris Godwin, with not having Antonio Brown for an entire season, picking up wide receiver 3 targets and turning them into wide receiver 1 production. Like, it's going to be Lombardi Lenny. And yes, they drafted Rachaad White, but Leonard Fournette, they want to keep him healthy as an aging running back too. He had 180 rush attempts last season. Maybe that gets scaled back to 160, and he catches 20 more receptions this year with what I expect his target totals to be boosted by with the absence of Chris Godwin for at least half the season. He was RB3 in fantasy points per game last year. Again, with only 180 rush attempts, behind 10 total touchdowns. He's going to get those opportunities again this year. I would dare say he has more opportunity for touchdowns this year than last year. More opportunity for receptions. Maybe around the same amount of rush attempts. They lost Ronald Jones. They clearly don't like Keyshawn Vaughn because they keep moving him down the depth chart year after year after year, and now he's about to be 26. So, yes, they have Rachaad White there. Rachaad White is taking that Ronald Jones role and probably Keyshawn Vaughn's role sooner than later, but that doesn't mean that I'm worried about Leonard Fournette, especially from a quarterback in Tom Brady, who has, not in a short sample size, but throughout a career spanning, 20 years now, he has targeted his running backs every single year. He made Dion Lewis, who was on the Eagles practice squad, at one point before being signed to the Patriots and being made an RB2, RB1. That's the
Turn
type
him
of
into an
guy
RB,
he was
yeah,
hyper
RB1.
targeting, and he was like what 5'6". I
Yeah.
mean, Leonard Fournette is 6 foot. He's a bigger target, can catch passes, is versatile. He almost plays a different position than any other receiving running back that he's ever had. He almost plays a James White, Julian Edelman, and then like LeGarrette Blount-ish role. Like, he can rush it in on the goal line. He does catch 9 targets a game, like Edelman was catching back in the day. He does, and James White was catching back in the day. Like, Leonard Fournette's going to get a ton of work. He's going to get more work in the early part of the season with no Godwin, and it's Tom Brady's possibly his last season. He's going to come out swinging, and Leonard Fournette's going to be one of his primary weapons.
Should be a huge factor.
So yeah,
in that
I
offense.
have him ahead of Aaron Jones because of the lack of competition that he has, and the upside for just as many, if not more, receptions. Like, he already beat out the receptions for what Aaron Jones was getting. Plays in just as good as an offense with just as much target competition.
Mm-hmm.
Except he doesn't have an Aaron Jones or an A.J. Dillon really taking all that much work, at least until Rachaad White grows into that. And Rachaad White, does not project to be A.J. Dillon. He just doesn't.
No. I guess what I would say, like, yeah, what A.J. Dillon
on,
is
Slim?
to Aaron.
But keep going.
So Slim. What I guess I would say, like, maybe, yes, you're right. Leonard Fournette doesn't have an A.J. Dillon the way Aaron Jones does, but also the Packers don't have a wide receiver of the caliber of Mike Evans.
Yeah, but you could argue their collection of target getters is better than, Russell Gage, Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The depth is you could make the argument that the depth is better, but if we were to rank the teams, like Mike Evans,
true,
like way up here,
true,
and then it's like Alan Lazard, so
agreed.
There is that. Now, obviously, it's like apples to oranges, but just wanted to call that out. Yeah, I grappled with this for a while because I like Leonard Fournette, but he's my RB 13. He just missed for me. I wanted to make him an RB1. I have a little bit of hope for some. I'm swinging for the fences a little bit here on some of these guys. And one of the dudes who I do have in here who is my RB10 is tentative on what happens to start the season.
Kamara?
Which is Alvin Kamara. Obviously, if he's suspended, it's no question Leonard Fournette leapfrogs him. And I thought about, again, leapfrogging Leonard Fournette over him anyway, because to your point, Fournette plays in the significantly better offense. What Kamara has going for him right now is that his court date, the first one, has been pushed back to August 1st. So I'm actually legitimately starting to question, will Kamara get suspended this year? Or will he be able to duck it? Will he be able to? No,
I heard that the guy that got assaulted is threatening to release the video. Which, as we know, and again, I heard this again on another podcast that I was listening to
I didn't hear
when
that,
I was at work. Because I was bored and didn't want to work.
Well, that's what work's good for, doing literally anything else.
Yeah, but basically they alluded to the guy that got beat up has a video and he's threatening to release it. Also, apparently there's rumblings that they're trying to put an extension on the court proceedings so that it continues to be pushed forward.
So like a date maybe gets moved up.
Right. So I'm contemplating whether or not this is going to be a scenario like we saw with Zeke a few years ago, where he got suspended halfway through the season.
Mid-season.
And maybe he does start the season, but he doesn't finish the season due to the off the field issues that he's going through right now. Maybe there are no suspensions. Maybe it gets worked out. And maybe suspensions get held off a full year. There's a lot of range of possibilities here, and I don't have any concrete evidence of any of the things that I'm saying. I'm just relaying information that I've heard from elsewhere. With that said, Alvin Kamara is my RB10 because he is the most impressive running back historically when you're looking at what he has offered in fantasy points per game. I cannot point to a running back that we've gone over yet who has a more consistent high-end fantasy points per game than Alvin Kamara. 2017, number 4. 2018, number 4. 2019, number 8. 2020, number 1. And 2021, in a down year with a much lesser offense, he was number 4 in fantasy points per game. It wasn't up to the 25.2 fantasy points per game he had in 2020. It was only 18.1, so it was like a touchdown less a game, which is a lot, but still 4th in fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
In a down season with the offense, what it was last year, like, come on, you guys. And that's with the guy that had 3.7 yards per carry.
Right.
It was his least efficient season on the ground, and it just didn't matter because, as we all know, receptions and touchdowns matter more than anything else. Do we expect him to go back to that Drew Brees level of efficiency? No. But he proved last year it doesn't matter. He was still 4th in fantasy points per game. The only hang-up I have on him and the only reason why he is not ahead of Derrick Henry for me right now is the legal issues, because he would supplant Derrick Henry in that RB5 spot. He just would, because he has only finished with less fantasy points per game in his career once than RB5, and he was RB8 that season. So, like, what are we even talking about?
Still got a mid-tier
Alvin
RB.
Kamara is absolutely incredible.
He's awesome. From a balance perspective, it's like watching a ballerina play football, and I mean that as a compliment. He's unbelievable. He's out of my top 12 though, if he obviously gets suspended. But for now, I have to give him the RB10 spot. He would be higher if there was more certainty that there were no legal issues. Obviously, there are. That's why I have him here. He drops out. Fournette moves in if, in fact, he gets suspended. I'm swinging for the fences a little bit for my last two guys to round out my top 12.
So just to be clear, you have Aaron Jones at RB9.
Yep.
Joe Mixon at RB8, DeAndre Swift at RB7.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara at RB10, and I'm guessing James Conner at RB11.
James Conner's my RB12.
RB12, and Leonard Fournette at RB11.
Fournette's my RB13. I'm swinging for the I am ultimately swinging for the fences at RB11.
Saquon here?
Saquon.
All right.
I understand the concern. But if we're going to give the benefit of the doubt to Christian McCaffrey, who we have seen be the elite Konami code at running back, I have to do the same thing for Saquon, because we've seen him only once, but it did happen, finish as a top 5 running back in his rookie season. Had a bit of a Joe Mixon treatment with awful, god-awful, terrible Giants teams, and he has failed to stay healthy. However, I truly believe he was returning to form last year after week 4 when he posted back-to-back RB1. I think they were RB1 weeks for the week that week in weeks 3 and weeks 4 before he picked up another ankle injury in week 5, was able to play through it, but it derailed his season from as far as the lofty expectations. It's simple. Saquon Barkley remains an athletic freak and a yards created monster. Shout out Graham Barfield. Anytime I bring up yards created, that is his creation. That is his baby. It's one of my favorite metrics to look at for running backs, which is why I like Kenneth Walker. But anyway, Saquon Barkley is a absolute freak of nature who has performed big time in spite of terrible offenses. This offense is as good as it's been since his rookie year. They beefed up their offensive line. I don't expect all that much from Daniel Jones, but I do believe in their head coach, Brian Daboll, who oversaw one of the greatest ascensions of an offense that we've seen in recent history with the Buffalo Bills. Saquon will be the catalyst of that offense if he's healthy. And I have no reason to believe that, again, if he's able to play even 12 games, that he can't finish as a low-end RB1. So, honestly, yes, Fournette it's more of a numbers crunch for me for why Fournette just misses. But again, I'm swinging for the fences on a player like Saquon. When you can get him in the 3rd round, I will take that chance. I will take that up. I will take that shot.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the 2 games he had before the Dallas game, where he only had like 2 carries and only played 9.5% of snaps.
Yeah, that's where he got hurt. I think that's where he got hurt. Right? Yeah.
83.1% snap share in the first game, 88.6. I mean, in that 3rd game, and 88.5 in that 2nd game. Was the RB9 in fantasy points per game in week 3, and the RB2 in fantasy points per game in week 4. And then the injury happened. But I mean, Saquon, he was about to be coming into his own. The one thing I can say last year, the efficiency really wasn't good. I mean, 3.7 yards per carry, 15th best target share in the league, or snap share in the league, 12th most targets from a running back, 8th, had to deal with the 8th most defenders in the box, which points to because there was nobody else that the offense was or the defense was scared about. They just keyed in on him. That contributed to his 3.7 yards per carry, and that contributed to him having the 27th best score in fantasy points per game, even though he was 12th in targets. Now, if that efficiency just comes up just a little bit,
just a hair, baby,
he's an RB1.
I believe so.
Or at least in the conversation for an RB1, because he's going to get all the rush attempts. There isn't any competition on that team for the rush attempts. We're hoping the guy that just got signed as an undrafted free agent comes in and supplants Matt Breida as the RB2 and Jashawn Corbin, but even him, not any sort of competition for Saquon Barkley's 1st, 2nd, 3rd down workload, and honestly 4th down too. 41 receptions last year. In his best season, he had 91 receptions. Even in his 2019 season where he finished as RB7, he had 52 receptions. He only needs to bump that reception total up a little bit more, get net some of that, our favorite phrase, positive touchdown regression, since he only scored 4 last season. And he had 8 in 2019 and 15 in 2018. So a little bit of positive touchdown regression, a little bit more efficiency with the yards per carry on the ground, and they did spend a high draft pick on the O-line. If they figure out their wide receiver room, if Kenny Golladay can stay healthy and they can unlock Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson can come in and be effective,
gives them a little something.
Right, it at least makes it so that they can't key in on him at the 8th most highest rate in the league in terms of 8 men in the box or defenders in the box. I mean, Saquon can absolutely bounce back.
Yep, you get away from Joe Judge, who's a Matt Nagy level coach. Believe in Brian Daboll's offensive scheme. No, they don't have Josh Allen, but they do have an innovative mind running the offense now. And just from that perspective, I feel a little bit better about Saquon. Slim, right there with you, man. Every running back has built-in risk, but not too many of them have the upside that a player of Saquon Barkley can bring to the table if he is healthy, which, again, we never predict or project injuries. Saquon's an RB1.
But, I'm really happy we're not hearing about Saquon gaining 14 pounds of muscle.
No, he didn't need it. Those quads are already exactly where they need to be.
Yeah.
So but he's my RB11.
He right now for me it was a tough choice. And really I have him slashed next to somebody. And it's because I had to throw Alvin Kamara in there, and it's because I had to throw Aaron Jones in there. I have my RB12 as right now tentatively James Conner / Saquon Barkley. So I really got to think.
James Conner's my RB12.
I really got to think hard about it. You didn't have Leonard Fournette in your top 10.
He was a squeeze. Yeah.
He's RB9 for me. So somebody has to get pushed down. Right now, it's one of James Conner or Saquon Barkley. I have not yet made up my decision on that because I did impromptu in this stream put in Aaron Jones into my RB11 spot.
Had to throw him in.
Then Saquon was my RB12. So right now, Saquon's my RB13. I still feel great about Saquon. It's just...
It's a numbers crunch.
There is a route to him catching less receptions than we would like. It's technically within the realm of possibilities for him. There could be growing pains with just the offense being this is a first-time head coach, and we have seen that go wrong in places, even though they had great coaching bloodlines. Like we've seen that.
Sure. Yeah, we've seen.
So I'm not willing to
good
just
coaches
say,
falter because the personnel stinks.
Just because I'm a Bills fan, what's his name, Sean McDermott, bloodlines, I'm gonna trust Dayball and Sheen. Yeah, that's great. Coaching bloodlines, GM bloodlines, with Sheen coming from McBean or Brandon Bean, but still, gotta see how it plays out. Don't love this quarterback. Let me see the offense and how it plays out with the coaching stuff and everything for a year. That first year with the Bills with Sean McDermott wasn't an all-out great year. Took him a little bit to work into that. Might be the same in the Giants or with the Giants. So, yeah, Saquon should be the heart and soul, the heartbeat of this offense. But for me right now, he's RB13 because there's still question marks that I don't have with some of these other guys.
There's warts. There's warts for sure.
But talent-wise, man, he's a top 10
the
talent-wise.
Upside is,
it's just...
Yeah.
You do have to factor in the injury risk. You do have to factor in first-time head coach. You do have to factor in this offense was terrible last year. You do have to factor in the quarterback sucks. Like,
sure, the quarterback we don't believe in, but it doesn't take that much to just dump the ball off.
True.
Let him catch it and run for 7 yards here and there, 8 yards here and there, bust one off for 15 to 20 yards every so often, maybe a few times. Saquon's floor should be 50 catches. His floor should be catching 50 balls. So I have him as my 11. I have James Conner firmly as my RB12 just because Arizona paid him to be a bell cow. I know Fournette got paid as well. My distinction there is the Bucs lost a couple of pieces along the offensive line. So am I that worried about Fournette? No. He just misses. He's my RB13. He's like an extension RB1, but I have to put him as my first RB2, which is for me like I wish I could do better to give Fournette the kudos that he deserves after the season he had last year. But for Conner, yes, he's also a little bit of an injury risk. Every running back is. But we expect Arizona to remain an electric offense, and they let Chase Edmonds walk, and they've replaced him with Darrell Williams, who Darrell Williams had a nice season last year, had a good year. But some of that was out of necessity because Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not fired. James Conner is going to be a 3-down back for Arizona. Fournette should be as well. The difference is, I guess, they lost a couple pieces along the offensive line. Yes, he could make up for that in targets and catches. But Conner can catch the ball as well, and with no DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona to start the season, Conner might catch a ton of balls out of the backfield. And he's a huge threat on the goal line. It's an offense where I don't have that much confidence in the head coach. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a boob. But it hasn't prevented the Arizona offense from being pretty good. Now, yes, I'll give all the credit in the world to Kyler and almost none of it to Cliffy. But give me the talent on the field. This is an offense that should have plenty of scoring opportunities, and James Conner, out of necessity, should see significant target and catch percentages at least to start the season. So I have him rounding out my top 12.
Yeah, I mean, I make it almost this point almost every single time I bring up a Arizona running back in general. Kenyon Drake was their leading running back for basically 2 seasons, for 20 games. He had 18 touchdowns over the 20 games.
Tons of touchdowns. Yep.
And yes, James Conner had 18 touchdowns in 1 season, but you're only talking about 4 more games if we're talking a 20-game stretch, 18 touchdowns. The only thing between James Conner and Saquon Barkley, James Conner we're projecting him at his ceiling here. We are projecting him at his ceiling. It's a fair thing to do, though, because of the offense that he plays in. With Saquon, we're projecting him at his floor. His floor is RB13. James Conner's ceiling is RB12.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what we're talking about here. But because he plays in such a strong offense with such minimal competition, you got to be looking at James Conner and being like, damn, how can this guy not perform, maybe not get 18 touchdowns, but not perform like an RB1 again? I mean, Kenyon Drake in 2020, he had the 19th most snaps, 4th most red zone touches. And in 2020, in terms of he wasn't game script wasn't in his favor. Like, they were just using him in all sorts of different situations and putting him in the red zone, and it didn't matter. James Conner, it was a little bit different. 21st best snap share, or most snap share in the league in terms of running backs, 16th most red zone touches, but he had the 6th best, 7th most game script in the league, and the 6th most in terms of dominator rating in the NFL last season. So he was getting a ton of work from Kyler Murray, and game script was working in their favor. So think about that. When Kenyon Drake was in, he wasn't getting a ton of work. He wasn't so game script proof, but he was getting the 4th most red zone touches in the league. And then there's a little bit of a switch on offense. Maybe things just are clicking a little bit more early in the season or whatever. They're playing from ahead more. Game script works in their favor. James Conner comes in and he performs and gets 18 touchdowns despite a lesser snap share than Kenyon Drake, a lesser red zone touch workload than Kenyon Drake, because game script went the other way. So either way, the RB1 is going to get work. Either game script goes their way when the touches don't, or the touches go their way. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like 6 in one hand.
So I'm not so worried that I'm drafting a guy at his ceiling, because this offense, right? You want the RB1 or even RB2 for this offense.
You want the RB1 in Arizona, and James Conner is the clear RB1 in this offense. So I got to give him the respect of putting him at RB12.
And this is a guy who has caught 55 passes in his career in 13 games with Pittsburgh. He caught 55 targets, or 55 receptions. Now, he only got to 37 last year, but he was splitting time for, I think, 12 games with Chase Edmonds.
Yeah,
maybe
so
a little bit less,
should be fine.
And he was getting 4 receptions a game.
Yeah.
Or 4 targets a game.
4 targets a game.
So
get that again.
Yeah.
He should get that again.
Connor should get that.
Yeah, Connor.
I was saying Chase Edmonds was getting 4 targets a game. Connor should get that.
Connor should absorb at least half of those.
Yeah.
At least. On top of what he was already getting.
Exactly. He's, from a workload perspective, the most bulletproof running back in the league, outside of Derrick Henry and the other elite guys. Once you get into the tier where you're really talking about, receiving backs being like the Aaron Joneses and then the Leonard Fournettes and the Alvin Kamara's, just because of the suspension worry.
Yep.
I mean, from a workload perspective, James Conner should outperform those guys. From a workload perspective. So yeah,
I don't think that's unfair.
I have him in there too. He's my
So-
RB12.
So there you go. Saquon is on the edge for you. Leonard Fournette is right on the edge for me. We should probably just go ahead and do 13 to 24 the next time around. Real quickly, I see a comment from JW. Thanks for joining. If you're still in here, Dobbins about to crush. I mean, I think he can be an RB2. I think he'd be an RB2 this year. The lack of receiving work, and this is, I don't know if this is through any fault of his own or just the Ravens. It's more or less the Ravens' offensive scheme over the course of Greg Roman's tenure as an offensive coordinator. They don't throw the ball to running backs. So, yeah, he might average 5 yards a touch. He averaged 6 as a rookie prior to the injury. And on a run-first offense like Baltimore, he should find him as the lead back, should get plenty of opportunities and will have RB1 weeks. I don't know that he'll have the consistency to finish as an RB1. I would more put him as a mid-tier RB2. The offense that he's in gives him some upside. The scheme of not throwing the ball to running backs bakes in downside.
And them having Tyler Batty, who is their new receiving back. Like
Yeah.
Tyler Batty is getting all the work right now because the other running backs are injured. There was just a report today Gus Edwards is injured and not playing in OTAs or whatever. So more work for Tyler Batty, and he's just gonna maybe take that role and run with it, as it is an unestablished role on this team.
It just doesn't exist.
And then you're really looking at a running back by committee. I mean, I'd rather have Nick Chubb this year in redraft than him. I'd rather have Saquon. I'd rather have possibly Antonio Gibson than him. Possibly. I mean, I haven't worked out this part of my rankings yet, but yeah, Javonte for sure I would rather have ahead of him if we're talking about running backs that are splitting work.
David
Javonte
Montgomery
is a more efficient running back.
Cam Akers, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne.
Elijah Mitchell. There's a bunch of running backs here that are going to push J.K. Dobbins down the board because he's coming back from injury.
So if you believe in him, you might get a good discount. I can't project him as more than around, at best, say like RB 18-ish. So I think he could be an RB2. I can't. If he proves me wrong, great. I can't project him as an RB1. But he will crack the 13 to 24 rankings, which we might just go ahead and do for our next general stream next Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, we like Dobbins. It's just I don't know about crushing. I think he's going to.
I hope he bounces back from the injury.
Yeah, I just think he is, like everybody else in the offense, a little bit held back by the offense in which he plays in, and just the general schemes and the way that they do business over there.
They cannibalize each other. Gus Edwards averages 5 yards a carry for his career. He's also coming back healthy.
700 yards every season. It's just a thing.
It's just what he does.
Lamar Jackson's going to vulture touchdowns. Gus Edwards is going to vulture touchdowns. It's just going to happen. It is.
And he won't catch probably more than like 20 catches would be incredible.
Like there are reasons why we like ETN more than him. There are reasons why maybe it's more of like a conversation between who do you like more, Gus Edwards and Elijah Mitchell. You gotta really think. Or
you mean Dobbins and Mitchell?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Just making.
All
good.
But yeah. And
I like Dobbins, the talent. He should average 5 yards a carry. Just won't catch passes.
There's also re-injury risk. So
there's that with everybody.
Echo Slim's sentiment here, just to play devil's advocate, not echo. Yeah, every RB comes with risk, but people coming back from injury come with more risk. So there is that as well. Even though he is a young running back, and we hope he doesn't miss any games. But Slim, we are both CMC believers as well. He is both of ours RB2
He's a cheat code
this year.
Yeah, RB2 for this year.
You want to run through the rankings real quick for Slim?
Yeah. For anybody who might be catching us late, as we do wind this down, we did do a top 12 ranking for the running backs for 2022. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. John has Austin Ekeler as RB3. I'm bullish on Najee. I currently have him as RB3. The weight gain could slide him down. For now, he's my RB3. Austin Eckler's my RB4. Dalvin Cook as John's RB4. We both have Derrick Henry as RB5. I have Dalvin Cook as my RB6. Najee is John's RB6. So the top 6 are the same, just a couple like little slight differences. DeAndre Swift and Joe Mixon are 7 and 8 for me. It's flip-flop for John. Mixon 7, Swift 8. I have Aaron Jones at 9. John, you had who was your Leonard Fournette at 9.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara at 10 for both of us. I have Saquon at 11. John has Aaron Jones at 11.
Yep.
We both have James Conner at 12. So the squeeze for me is Fournette at 13. The squeeze for John is Saquon at 13. And we will do 13 to 24 for the 2022 season. You want to just plan to do that for Tuesday?
Yeah.
We'll plan to do that for Tuesday. So stay tuned for our RB2 rankings, 13 to 24. We'll do that on the Tuesday stream, in addition to another Dynasty and or Redraft AMA. Always happy to take questions or comments from the chat. Never afraid to deviate from that perspective. But I think that, with wrapping up the top 12 for 2022, obviously these are fluid and could change. Likely will before or by the time training camp rolls around. I think that covers us for today's stream.
And Dobbins might get some goal line, but I would put it on other players getting goal line. Like it's a running back by committee, J-Dubs. Like it's just gonna happen.
He'll get the goal line. He'll get goal line work. He will.
So will
he should
Edwards.
Be first
so
man
will Jackson. Like you're just gonna have to. It's an RBBC. You're gonna have to deal with that. You just are.
Yeah. He'll get goal line work, and the Ravens should be. I mean, they have Lamar Jackson. They will have plenty of scoring opportunities. It's a good offense. I have no problem. Like I believe in Dobbins, the runner.
The offense holds him back just like every other player in this offense. It's the lack
of receiving work that puts a ceiling on him.
Yep. And Slim, yeah, we're both CMC believers, like we just alluded to. Yes, last 4 years hasn't had an average less than 25 touches a game. JT had an average of 21 or 24 last year as RB1. I would just say to that, CMC should get his role scaled back a little bit, but even if he's averaging 20 touches a game, I think that would be a sweet spot for him where, like, I'm happy with him getting that because it keeps him healthy, keeps him arguably more efficient on a per touch basis over the course of the year. So yeah, bottom line is we both love CMC. He's our RB2 this year in redraft. And Alex, we can absolutely make a recording on that.
Stoty, like just like daily updates. I mean, when it's relevant, of course. Like when there are headlines that are actually, it's like we need to take this into account. We need to talk about this. Yeah, for sure.
What we are going to start doing is doing more shorts. So because that was something that we started doing as the season ramped up last year.
Updates, yeah.
A lot of those things might start making it into the shorts videos that we start doing, which I think are only mobile unless you go on our channel and go to the shorts playlist and play the shorts there. But these might not. The news and notes of the day, the little snippets might not warrant a larger video, but you'll definitely see video content from us on that type of stuff in the shorts.
I could talk for 45 seconds about how Jahan Dotson is swagging out.
Boom. But yeah, stay tuned for some content from us in that manner or in that arena, but maybe not long form video.
But yeah, anybody that has any suggestions, anything they want to see specifically, feel free to shout them out. Feel free to call them out. We're happy to do whatever would be most helpful for you guys, the people who come in and check us out and hang out with us each week. More than happy to do that. If any thoughts come up, I'll shout it out one more time. If you would like to join the Discord, we have that. That's the second link in the description of this video and all of our recent videos. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. Come in, ask questions, bring up any general topics, any talking points, whether it's trades, whether it's just, new OTA news, anything you want us to comment on, that's what the Discord is for. We're enjoying the community that we're building in there. People are absolutely happy to talk through anything as well. You don't necessarily have to just wait for us to respond, although we absolutely will make a point to do so.
Yep.
So second link in the description of this video and all of our recent videos. If you're interested, we can keep the conversation going on in the Discord.
Oh, you talking about points per game, not touches per game? Hey, still point stance. CMC's
McCaffrey, McCaffrey's a layup for 25 points per game when he's healthy. Yeah. McCaffrey's a cheat code.
Yeah. And not based on just pure workload. Like, he's not Derrick Henry getting on average 500 touches extrapolated for the season. Like, he's just doing it.
He's one of like one or two running backs who could catch 100 passes.
Yeah, he's getting 25 fantasy points on 350 touches. 380 touches. So, well, still a lot. It's a lot less than a Derrick Henry type. But
it's like the wear and tear of a carry versus a catch, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Thank y'all for tuning in today. Thank y'all for all the likes. Thank y'all for all the votes in the poll. Much appreciated. Just let us know in the comment section of the video. Was this any smoother of a stream for you with the changes that we made to the overlay and just to everything? Let us know. It's something we're
general viewing experience, you know.
Yeah, we're striving to make things better for y'all. So, was this any better than the last time you saw us? But thank you to everybody in the chat. Much appreciated. Y'all made this fun for us. We will be back with our RB rankings next week for 13 through 24. We do have videos dropping taken from our last live stream all weekend. So if you missed one of those, stay tuned. We do have some fun stuff over the weekend. We'll be ramping up again to doing, 2 a days. So maybe 3 days, depending on what's happening. So stay tuned on the channel. It's about to get real fun as we move towards the season.
We're getting close.
And I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday.